So, Srijit, do we have some of the Telangana colleges were to join as well? They were having some issue in the setting up the projector. So, did you get any message separately on them?
No, Darshana, not yet.
Okay, let me check. So, you have started the recording, right? And it is being live telecasted on our app as well. Okay, cool. So, hello everybody. I'm really excited to welcome two of very accomplished women here today, Neema Nair and Ruchi Varshney, our fellow from Kalpana batch 1. Diksha will be introducing the speakers today and conducting the session. So I'm doubly excited. And Ruchi and Neema, some of our fellows attend it through the app and some of them are watching it live. And then there are students in Telangana who are attending it through a projector. So there are different ways the students are participating. So the way, as we have relayed, Neema goes first. She share like Diksha will introduce, and then Neema will go first, and you share your journey, and then Ruchi gets introduced, and Ruchi shares her journey, and then at the end we open the floor to questions. Our girls post the questions in the group, or not group, post the questions in the chat who are joining in from the Telangana schools, and others switch on their cameras and ask the question. So. Diksha, over to you. Please start.
Thank you, Darshana. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So the first speaker of the session is Neema Nair. I would. Am I audible though? Am I? Okay.
Yes, Diksha, you are audible. And is your
Okay.
camera on? Because I can't see it. Srijit, are you able to see Diksha's video?
Yes, Darshana.
Okay.
And Diksha, can you spotlight both Neema and Ruchi, please?
Sure, I'll do that. Just a sec. I think I don't have the authority to do so. Maybe Shijit, you could try. I can't do it. Yeah. Oh, that's hi. Shijit, not Varshney. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Diksha. I'm going to be the host for today. Our first speaker of the session is Neema. So, Neema is from Cummings. She joined Cummings in 2006, and she's passionate about value of diversity and inclusion in workplace, and she's also a Pride Employee Resource Group supporting LGBTQ plus in Cummings India. We are very happy to have her here. Neema, over to you.
Thank you, Diksha. Thank you for having me here. I'm pretty excited. Can you just confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I didn't know how to do like an introduction on this. So I have a slide I'm going to just show, and I like to share it this way. It just makes things a little bit easier. So hopefully you can see the slide. Can you confirm?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So I like doing my introduction this way. So there are like 4 major aspects of me as what me involves. There's my hat, that is my day job at Cummins, which is the technical leadership role that I do. I lead the design and analysis teams for the engine business, which is one of our core products in Cummins. I lead that for Cummins in India, and then I also I'm a mother of 2. They tend to keep me busy pretty much all the time, and then my spouse also works for Cummins, and so that's a interesting mix, I think. apart from that, I'm as we were talking a little earlier, is I'm very passionate about diversity and equity and inclusion. It's something that I found my path pretty much when I started with Cummins many years ago. And it started with a very passionate endeavor for women in technical and women staying in core technical roles over time. And then it slowly evolved because of intersectionality and also experiences, right? As you experience life, it evolved into me becoming I'm a very strong ally for the LGBTQ community and also the space that's within Cummins for our LGBTQ employees. And so that's evolved into two different diversity hats that I wear, which is I am the executive chair for the SWE Executive Council in Cummins. That's globally. And then for India and for SWE, I chair their India Corporate Council. So there's a council of, peer companies that are on that society corporate council. And I co-chair that. For Cummins, I'm also the inclusion champion, which is the ERG leader, the employee resource group leader for the LGBTQ employees. So that's the LGBTQ space we spoke about. So, and that space is called Pride. And so because it's the India group, it's called India Pride. So that's my very brief introduction. I'll talk a little bit about my background, and I'll stop sharing the slide because that's kind of very in your face, I think. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I graduated from Mumbai University, a college called VJTI in Mumbai. And from there, I went straight for my master's, did my master's in mechanical engineering. And I think throughout that time, when you're in core engineering, I think you hear a lot of, oh, okay, that's great. Then you kind of do other degrees after that, and then you go into management. Because the concept of, women, especially the women in our class, and women going through something as core as mechanical and staying in it was foreign at that time. And I'm so glad that's not true. But at that moment, it felt like there wasn't really much of a path ahead in engineering. And I was very outspoken, very clear in my communication. So everyone's like, oh yeah, you'll do marketing afterwards and you'll go into management. And so in my head, that's what I thought, right? And I did masters because I wanted to try how research went and whether that was really my cup of tea. And doing research in a very narrow niche area was not really something that I fit into either. Though I did quite well, I was like, I wasn't sure if that was my future. So I said, okay, let's start working. And then, I can always go back to school and do a program that led me the management and business way. Fortunately for me, I got into Cummins in the US straight away. So the university I went to was a campus school for Cummins. So I joined that. And then my first job was in engine testing, engine tuning, calibration, performance of engines, and then testing engines on trucks and heavy machinery. And it was amazing. I think it was my first opportunity to really fall in love with engineering and a very core area. And it had such a huge impact that I've stuck with it for almost 16 and a half, 17 years now. And there's been no looking back. So it's been an amazing journey. And along the way, it transitioned a few roles, but basically stayed in core engine and engine development, and stayed in the industry, in fact, the same company throughout, and then moved to India along the way, and started working here. But that's been the biggest thing about my journey has been learning to love the technical role, learning to love how to apply engineering in the real world, and how it applies at work. And then along the way, understanding that leadership is a diverse perspective. It's not just one thing, and accommodating that in the growth aspect of you as a person. It's been a very fulfilling journey. Yeah, so I think, I mean, I don't know what the expectation is. I can go into very detail of what I did along the way, but the honest truth is I've stuck with performance and design and development of engines throughout. And I've done not many roles by the standard of how you see people switch around jobs now, but this is my 4th job inside the company. Even I don't switch around very many roles. And so basically done everything that's customer facing engineering and then design and development based engineering. So those are the 2 big areas that I've been part of. As I was going through the journey, I remember I had the opportunity to go for this executive education program through Cummins. And so when I went there, I was like, it was the first time I was in a room full of women in a long time. And as they're thinking, why do I need this course? I'm so good at blah, blah, blah. You know, you're young, you're naive, you think you know everything. And I'm sitting there in those courses, and I remember seeing all the women in the room. It was amazing. It was like 80 of us from different industries and companies. And you see them kind of put on a mask when they're in the room and being very, trying to win every dialogue, every project, every conversation that we were having in the room. And then when you walked away from the room, because it was an on-site, on-campus sort of education program, you walk away and you go to a restaurant or something like that, and then there's such completely different people, right? And you have the whole variety, and that kind of got me going on the journey of, hey, why does anybody even need to be different to be successful? Cummins is big on bringing your whole self to work. It kind of resonates with what I feel about how you do work, right? Because work's such a huge part of your entire storyline that you cannot be 2 different people. You can't be, hey, this is me outside of work, this is me at work. You have to be the same person, and that has to be valued, and that has to be great. And so for me, that's where the diversity, equity, and inclusion comes from, is bringing your whole self to work, the ability to be that great person at work, whoever you are. That uniqueness, that unique blend of who you are is so important in no matter what industry you are in. And so just that acceptance and awareness is great for me. And so that's been my journey. And yeah, I'll stop here. And then I would love to take questions. I think it's easier for me to answer that way.
Neema, just if you can touch upon one last bit about, like, if there were people who inspired you in this journey, like role models or mentors, and if there were challenges, if any, during your studies, and how you briefly navigated on that. Because I'm not sure if you received our template which we had sent with the sort of expectations. So this is one part you would really like to, yeah. So you can cover
so
that.
yeah, I can hit on that. So I've had some really great mentors. I've had people who've told me things as it is on my face, saying, okay, this is great. This is something that you have to stay true to no matter what anyone tells you. And there have been people who've helped me, how do I say, finesse what I've needed to improve on, right? Like I said, as you grow through this experience, the experiences make you definitely better. For me, it's been a journey of a lot of self-reflection and a lot of making sure I bring my true self to work, being authentic to what I do, and that is not easy to do by yourself. And so for that, I think I've had some really great mentors within the company. I've had I had a great mentor in particularly one of our marketing leaders who, so completely different from the field that I'm in and in a different area, but she was always so to the point, and she would always talk about leaving the playing field better than where you found it, and really aiming towards making sure that you develop the people around you. It's like a very normal thing to say, okay, you need to develop the people whom you're coaching, who are in your teams, but making sure you develop the people you work with, making sure you develop the people who are your leaders so that they can be greater than what they were when they met you, right? And so for me, that's been a great thing. I think mentoring is a big boon because and also accepting in the mentoring process that not everything is going to be in one great person. There's no such thing as this one person who's going to be this fantastic person who has everything. So accepting that you need to have mentors, multiple mentors for different aspects, has been a very big deal through the journey. For me, one of the biggest challenges, there have been multiple. So for me, when I compare with what people normally go through in India, I feel like I feel sometimes I'm born with a silver spoon and I've had a lot of great opportunities. But having said that, I think there are some common themes, right? So when I was in mechanical engineering, I remember there was this one person who would always play it down, right? He would always play who you are down. So saying, when I'm doing great in refrigeration and air conditioning as a coursework, would say, hey, but can you cook, right? Random. Like, how does it matter? But there would be a question. But do you know, my first job interview, that was with a company, and they were looking for somebody on the shop floor, and I made it till the last round in the interview process. And in the end, they said, we're not going to choose you because you don't look feminine enough. And at that point, it's good that I had the presence of mind to say this, but I don't know how to. It's just kind of saying, I just said, okay, thank you for not taking me, because clearly our values don't match, right? That's not something I believe in. And so I'm glad that I didn't join that company and I'm glad that I didn't make it through that interview. But it's pretty harsh on somebody who's like a college student. So as you know, as students come up, you are coming up, you're going to face some of this stuff, but you have to know you kind of grow out of it. There are people who don't believe it. There are companies who really don't believe that stuff. And so you need to find that and find that connect and find that right space and not get glamorized by, oh, there's this really fantastic job title out there, or here's this huge pay package out there, because in the end, those things will grate on you after a while. The value system will grate on you after a while. So for me, that was the big learning. And then later in my career, I think one of the bigger challenges was just crossing countries. Coming back from the US was definitely a challenge. The culture in the work environment here is different. And having done my first job and grown up as a working professional in the US, and then having those expectations coming back was different. And it's not just about India or US. I think anytime you change cultures, anytime you change geographies, there is a period in which it takes time for you to kind of sink into who you are and what your reality in that culture looks like. And just being patient with that process is a learning curve. I think I'll be better with another geography move now than I was at that time, but it is something that was a challenge at that period and at that time.
Thank you, Neema. So you touched upon like the importance of diversity and inclusion. If you could, elaborate your work with LGBTQI plus communities and creating a diverse workforce in coming itself.
So it's been a very interesting journey for me, because so when I moved from the US to India in 2014, Section 377 was still in full force, and It's the first time I remember walking into various workspaces, and I had this little badge that said certified safe leader, and it had all the rainbow colors on it and stuff, because in the US you had this program that you had to go through to say, okay, I am an ally, because you now understand the journey and you're open and you know how to be confidential. So they give you a badge at the end of it. And there was this whole conversation around, oh, do we want to even display it? What does that mean? Is it illegal? How can it be illegal to support, a minority community as a majority workforce? It made no sense. And there were these random conversations in India, right? Everyone obviously wants to tell you what you should do. So there were these random conversations saying, but you are married, why are you getting into this? But you are straight, why are you getting in? And it's this whole power of the voice of the majority. It really rung through, because the whole journey of women in technical has been about, hey, I'm part of the minority group, right? Even though in numbers we're not minority, but yeah, women in technical group is a minority. So when you're part of the minority, you're really fighting for your own rights, and it's part of my story. And of course, I'm trying to make sure that there is a path. But then when it's switched on to the other side, and I'm this cisgendered, heterosexual person, and I'm now suddenly part of the majority, and seeing the power of having that voice, and helping the community, helping people from the community who really struggled, in no matter where you're in the world, but in India particularly, where you really struggle because a huge part of this community is abandoned by their own families, because they are who they are. It's not something that you can control. It's not something that you choose to be. Why would you choose this for yourself, right? If you're going to get this kind of atrocity against you every day of your life, why would you choose it? It's just this mindset that people would abandon you, that you would have no family, nothing to call your own, in a society that is fully built upon family structure. It's such a hard story. And so for me, coming in, it was a no-brainer. It was like, okay, this fight makes sense to me. It's something that I want to give my voice to. And I'm going to be vocal about it, because one of the things that really grates on me with diversity and inclusion is when we say the group that is the diverse group, right? The diversity group. So whether you take women in technical and you tell the women to lead the causes, you're making the minority group fight for their own rights. There is that's such an impossible task in my mind, right? And so for me, being part of this side of the story, I felt so powerful. I felt so powerful with my voice in saying, this is wrong. This is not something that we should be doing. How are we being fair to the world? And acknowledging that you don't know, acknowledging that I don't know, having been brought up in India in a regular, middle class, small unit family. It's not a conversation we ever had at a table, right? And so not knowing so much about this, still being part of the story and saying, yeah, I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm still going to be that ally. I'm still going to learn through this process, and I'm still going to be the person who says this is the thing we should do because it's the right thing to do. And so for me, that has been a big part of why I'm doing this. There are so many challenges. I mean, basic rights are not there. There is so many challenges on just recognition. Forget from the subtleties, right, where how people react and how people don't know how to behave and all of that. But just simple things, right? Language is such a challenge. So those kind of things, there are so many challenges. But I think you have to celebrate the small wins and the victories and keep moving forward and be positive about it. So that's something that I feel passionately about, and I work as much as possible in that area.
Thank you, Neema. Thank you for this really insightful talk and taking us through your journey. I'm sure our students have a lot of questions, which will we come to after the second speaker. So thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah. So the second speaker of today is Ruchi Varshney. She earned her engineering degree from India Institute of Technology, Roorkee, India, and an MBA from ZRI School of Management, Jamshedpur, India, and a master's in public health from John Hopkins University, Boomerang School of Public Health, Maryland, USA. Ruchi serves as a board member at Swiss Precision Diagnostic that provides women health products like home pregnancies test globally. And from 2013 to 2014, Ruchi served as an honorary board member for Ventures Innovation Strategies. We welcome you, Ruchi. Over to you.
Uh, Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about me. So first I have to start with a confession, right? It's not really easy for me to talk about myself. That just doesn't come naturally to me. My father raised me to say that, पेड़ जितना लदा होता है उतना ही झुका होता है. Means the people generally, those who are very talented, find it hard to talk about themselves. So growing up with that value, this becomes a little difficult. But then I've also come to believe, and I think something that Neema said, that if you can't see it, you can't be it. अगर आप अपने जैसे रोल मॉडल्स नहीं देख सकते तो it becomes very difficult for you to imagine that you can be that one day. And therefore, I said, this is definitely worth telling my story to this group of aspiring women. Then the second question that came to my mind is, मैं क्या बताऊं? What should I share that will be helpful to this group? So thank you for that direction between the team, Darshana and team, who said that this is mostly a group of girls who are aspiring to make a career in STEM. So then I thought, okay, then let me share a little bit more about the first 25 years of my life. So I'm double that age now. I'm 50 years old. But what I'm going to tell you is more about the first 25 years of my life. And the reason for that is I think that will give you an idea of how and where I came from. So thank you for sharing a template. I did make some slides. There are not that many, so it won't be that death by PowerPoint, but I think it will help you walk through my journey on how I made a place for myself or where I reached today, starting from a very small colony, mohalla in Uttarakhand, Roorkee, which is basically the place where I grew up. That's the place, that's my home. That's what I call is my Matrabhumi. I will use a couple of Hindi statements, but for those who do not know Hindi at all, I'll try my best to translate so that, everybody can understand what I'm saying. But just not speaking or bringing in Hindi becomes a little difficult because that's my Matrabhasha. My first language is Hindi. So I want to start this talk by basically the principle that has given me a lot of strength in those moments when things become difficult. If it weren't for rocks in its bed, the stream would have no song. What it means is that if life was just flowing smoothly, if there were no difficulties, if there were no adversities, it will also not bring out the best in ourselves as women, best in ourselves as girls in STEM. So the message I will convey through my entire talk today is that there are difficulties, there are challenges, but then the point is by overcoming them, we become a better version of ourselves. We become a better model for others around us. So let me start the talk today and start with the journey where I came from. So as I initially said, I was born in a small town of Roorkee in Uttarakhand. That's my home place. And I grew up in what you would call a traditionally joint family. So I had my two older brothers, my parents, and my younger sister. But then we lived with our grandparents. And one of the biggest influence in my life was my Baba, which is my grandfather. He himself had just completed high school, but he was visionary that he said all girls in his family need to become Indira Gandhi. And he used to say Indira Gandhi because at that time when I was growing up in 80s, early 80s, late 70s, she was the Prime Minister of India. So my grandfather told me that actually I have two options in my life. If I don't do anything, if I just waste away my life, I can be married to a shopkeeper next door, anybody, or or I can be like Indira Gandhi. And my total motivation in life as I was growing up a little girl in school was to avoid getting married to the next door shopkeeper. No disrespect to him. I don't even know who he was referring to, but the image was frightening enough for me to take physics, chemistry, maths, English, and all my subjects very, very seriously. The second, besides the stick, the carrot he dangled in front of me was if I got 100 out of 100 in physics, maths, or chemistry, he would get me jalebis that were special. Jalebis, I hope most of you know, but it's just a very dear sweet to me. So then you get 100 out of 100 and you get jalebis and you move away and away from getting married to the shopkeeper next door. That was my motivation. All I'm trying to tell you, the motivations or inspirations can be small. It's those people in your life who tell you that you can be something growing up. You just don't have to be any ordinary person next door, right? And then Mrs. Ketkar was my math teacher who gave me some basic principles on how to lead a disciplined life, right? I'll give you such a small thing, but I think it has made such a big impact in my life. She said the students who go home after school and wash their shirt and wash their socks and every day come in a fresh pair of socks and a fresh pair of shirts, they basically do better in life. Again, I didn't know if there was a randomized controlled trial done on those people and it was a proven scientific theory, but I took those words to my heart and I led my life with discipline. I led my life with a vision that my father and my grandfather had given me, and then my teachers gave me a path on how to transcend on that path well. And then there were these two books I just want to mention, which will again give you an idea of how you find inspiration. So, My Experiments with Truth by Mahatma Gandhi. I read that book multiple times, and I think I was in 8th or 9th grade. I don't know exactly the age of the people who are listening to me, but hopefully you'll find it relevant. And then there was Talks on Gita by Vinoba Bhave. These two books for a young girl became like guardrails of my life, right? And what I learned was to get force as a river. And again, I'll keep using that analogy of river again and again. You need to have bounds, right? If you dissipate your energy, if you do not have those boundaries, right, you dissipate your energy. So that discipline and those guardrails in my life came from, again, teachers in person, as well as these books who became like my teachers, right? So both Vinoba Bhave and Gandhiji. And the path that I followed for myself, and I'll tell you a little bit more in detail, was so my dadi, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, who I hold dearly. She was such an important part of my life. She was completely illiterate. She could not read and write. Then came my own mother, who did her graduation and then became a teacher in a local high school in Ruchi. So it was a Hindi medium school and she was teaching, science to those girls. But that became the power. In one generation, you could go from not knowing anything to basically being a teacher. Then to me, where I can just proudly say, again, not to toot my horn, but then I became the first professionally trained woman. I became the first woman in my family and actually that entire area to get into IIT. Getting into IIT again, it's just that goal, it's just that mark in life that gives you a path ahead. And then IIT was not enough, and I did something more too. But that first woman to become the technically trained woman in my life is just something I hold more as a responsibility to make sure that I share my journey with others and can help others too. So if that is helpful, I just want to go and talk about my academic journey. So I went to a small school, which is actually the only English medium school at that time in Roorkee. It's called Saint Anne Senior Secondary School. I was doing well there. This is the picture of how our school dress and school uniform was. And as I told you, I was pretty disciplined. But then Within that, the drive for academic excellence was there. So I got selected into National Talent Search Examination, which was great. And I graduated from my class, 12th class, being top of class. So I was, as they call it, I was ranked #1 in my class after the board examination, and also had the pleasure of being, head girl of my class, of my school for a couple of years, which just again was a great responsibility that came with it. After that, I thought I will get into some form of IIT, right? I had worked very hard in 12th grade. The expectation was I will get into IIT, but that didn't happen. So the first big failure of my life came when, after my 12th grade, I got the results that I hadn't gotten into Roorkee, which was my hometown and the engineering college there, or any IIT. But I did get into MNREC. MNREC is Motilal Institute of Technology in Allahabad. It was a great place. The first time I left Western UP to go towards East, such a long journey, 12 hours of train ride. Amazing. My father took me and I got admitted into MNREC. But something in me said that that wasn't my goal. I wanted to go to IIT. Now, this is again, I'm sharing this. MNREC is a great school. I could have graduated from there. But what I want to share with you is how the fire of your own passion, of your own dreams, sometimes can help you guide your life, and you need to listen to your inner voice. So I did my first year in electronics engineering in MREC and wrote the JEE again. The reason I wrote JEE and University of Roorkee, which was a separate exam again, was because it felt to me that not getting through JEE was a failure. Again, I'm not saying whether it was a right decision or not, but I want to share with you the fire in my heart and how do you make your dreams come true. So I wrote the exam again while doing the first year, and this time I did get into IIT and I got admission into Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, which was my dream school. 1 year of hard work had paid off. Right? And I was ecstatic. I packed my bags from MNREC Allahabad, came back to Roorkee, having that little admission card in my hand that I will go to IIT Kanpur. But life takes unexpected turn. Again, telling you my story of the river, of how river turns. I could not go to IIT Kanpur because my father said no. He said, since you have gotten into University of Roorkee, and Roorkee is our hometown, and my two brothers, older brothers, were graduates of from Roorkee. It used to be called University of Roorkee. You go to this illustrious school, which is right so-called in our backyard. It was just 3 to 5 kilometers away from home. While this is such an illustrious institute, that wasn't the institute of my dream. I had dreamt about going to Kanpur. But then such is life. When you are a 19-year-old girl, you accept what your parents say. At that time, I'm not again saying this is the right thing to do. You should always fight for your dreams. But what I'm sharing my journey. I ended up, or I was in a situation that I accepted what my father said, and I went and took admission into IIT Roorkee, which actually that time was the University of Roorkee. That was year 1991. But then that desire to excel remains. You can change the institute. You still have to follow that path, what I said, the path of a river bound by, the two banks. And again, proud to say that I graduated top of my class above all boys and girls who graduated in 1995 from University of Roorkee. I had the highest marks out of them. And then I got what they call that time the Chancellor's Gold Medal, which is great. And my single inspiration or the single enabler of that was actually the emblem of University of Roorkee, which says Shramam Binana Kimpi Sadhyam. It was just pure hard work and focus on my part that helped me graduate from Roorkee top of the class of very inspiring and capable students. After that, I did do my MBA. I tried to take a little detour in my career, and I did my master's in business administration from XLRI Jamshedpur. It is a school in Jamshedpur, which is east of India, and really a very good institute when it comes to management sciences. I was there for 2 years. And then later, after several years, I realized that I needed to be closer to like health, and I found my passion in public health. So I took my third detour towards going again to school, and I did a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg of Public Health. This is in Maryland, Baltimore, USA, right? So this was here after I had moved to US. So I had the second master's degree in public health. So that has been my academic journey. Again, the idea I want to do is, again, like River, things keep changing, but your focus on getting to the point that you want to needs to stay, right? Even if you don't get to choose the schools or get to schools of your choice, the quest for excellence, the quest for moving ahead is what I'm trying to convey here. So then Darshana and team asked me that I share with you my CV of challenges, right? So the first one, as you can imagine, is when you miss the train to the school of your dreams. I was booked on a train from Roorkee to Kanpur. The train came and left the station without me because my father said, no, you are not boarding the train. It was a big heartbreak. It was a big setback. But then it's just one of the challenges. Life goes on. I joined Roorkee. I was one of the 4 girls in electrical engineering class, and there were 64 boys. So when you are one of 4 girls and surrounded by 60 plus boys, and they try to be juvenile, they try to be, funny in a very, very demeaning words, and they throw chalks at you in class for all 4 years. I used to be the front bencher. I used to sit in the front row because I wanted to listen to teachers, but that gave such a good target on my back and my head for all those boys who thought it's so funny to throw chalks at a girl who is sitting in an engineering class. You wouldn't think a top engineering institute would have that, but I share this opportunity. I share this experience with you girls because this does happen. I hope it doesn't happen. It's 2023 now. I was in school in 1991 to 1995, but if it happens, you should raise your voice, you should say, but do not let them discourage you. You still go to class, even if there are any things which are related to harassment to you. You speak against them, but you do not quit your path or change your path. Then I went to XLRI, right? And I got a job with actually pretty good company. It was called Procter & Gamble, and they selected me out of my class of like, again, 50 or 60 people. Many people did not get it, and many of them were men. And they said, oh, you got this job because of your looks, not your brain. And that goes like a knife in your heart when all you are trying to do is build your career, build your credibility, but you're building your credibility as a woman in a man's world. And how do you do and how do you react to when somebody says this on your face, that you got the top job that everybody coveted, but you got it because of your looks and not your brains? You still hold your ground. You still respond to it, but you do not let it discourage you. That's my story, right? It's another rock in your path, but you flow over it. So I've had a great what do you say, opportunity to have some of the best men in my life, like my grandfather, my father, my brothers, my husband, my son. They are people I adore. They are like, the best of men, but I have also seen the worst in men, where they see a woman instead of a leader, instead of a technocrat, instead for what she brings to the table, as somebody from a sexist point of view, right? And I work again in a male-dominated industry. So I'm sharing these experiences because girls, sometime, hopefully you don't have them, but you are likely to have them, right? And then you just have to kind of find your path and find your allies and keep moving ahead. My car skid on an ice when I was driving in Pennsylvania. This was my first time I was driving in snow and ice. I had no idea, and I had a big car, and I was driving, and my car skids, right? And I nearly die. And the policeman comes, and I thought he's coming to help me because, my car is now banged up against a tree. I'm in a state of shock. I am by myself. I was going to work in Pennsylvania, and he comes and gives me a ticket for reckless driving. I was shocked. And the reason later I realized is because, he didn't want that liability, which is a US concept, so that, you don't, that they cannot say they hadn't cleaned the roads. So instead, he put the blame on me. I was shocked. This is again one of those examples of how you make a place for yourself as a woman, right? Because it's so easy to say, oh, women don't drive, ladkiyon ko theek se car nahi chalani aati, right? It's such a stereotypical things. They're all false. but they affect your life. They affect your self-confidence. They affect your daily experience. They can ruin up your day. They can ruin up your month. They can ruin up a year for you if you let them, right? And the last one, again, I don't want to bring you down, but before I presented my dissertation for my MPH, my mother passed away that night. And how do you show up on the dissertation, and how do you not do your dissertation, because then you don't get your degree, right? And they were saying it'll be a huge delay. And how do you deal with all these kinds of challenges, right? All I'm sharing this is not to share, I guess, my sad stories with you, but to tell you that these things happen in life. Therefore, this is so important. This is what I want to leave you. I want you to not remember my challenges, but remember this one statement. मुख्य नहीं है गिरना, मुख्य है गिरकर संभलना. गिरना तो होगा ही. You will slip and fall when you are trying to go to a long journey and climb a mountain. But what you have to do is get up every time, right? And that is most important. And what happens when you do these CV of challenges and continue to walk? I also have these heartwarming achievements. And I'm not talking achievements in terms of my medals or the jobs I do. I'm very fortunate to have a very senior job in a very reputed company, but that's not what I'm trying to tell you. You also get this heartwarming achievement when your little sister says that the distinction she got in PCM was all because of your tutoring. Right? That is when you smile. That is when you say you didn't even walk yourself. You pulled somebody along with you. Another girl, another one who was so close to me, my dear sister. When I got my master's in public health, it is not a medical degree. I'm not a doctor, but my father took my MPH degree to his cardiologist in Delhi. He went from Ruchi to Delhi, and he says, "Dekho, meri beti engineer bhi hai aur doctor bhi hai," right? I know it's little exaggeration. I'm not a doctor, but just the pride of your father, right? And to make them proud in what you do, that's what comes after walking on these rocks. And then you get this honor of talking to this talented group, and they think you can share something, right? So this is what comes from just keeping on your path. So very quickly, I was asked to show why I do what I do today. And I will share this concept of Ikigai. Disha, I don't want to, am I over my time? I just don't want to talk beyond what is, how much time do I have? Have I run out of my time?
No, it's fine. Please carry on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I want to leave you with this concept of, it's called Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept. It means the purpose of life. Right? So how do you find purpose of life? And it's a long journey, girls. I just want to tell you where you are right now. I'm assuming most of you are like age of my daughter. My daughter is 20 years old right now. She's in college, right? And she's doing economics and math, and my son is doing math too. So, it's kind of STEM and related fields. So this is what I'll tell them, that when you think of your career, when you think of what do you want to be in life, you have to first go to what you can be paid for, right? Because we do need to pay our bills. So what I started with after I graduated from Roorkee was software programming. It was a great job. It paid me very well. I worked for a company called TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. I'm sure many of you have heard. It's one of the largest software companies in India, right? I started working with them in Delhi. But I also realized that I was not a very good programmer. I could program, but I wasn't good at it. I had graduated as an electrical engineer and then taking a detour into software programming because that was the job. So when I realized that I'm not actually a very good software programmer, it was a very humbling experience, right? Because I had, as you say, I've been on top of my academic career, and then you come to a job and realize actually other people are better than me. So what do? Again, right? It's another rock in your path, but you continue to look at what you do. So I went and did an MBA and started doing research and analytics. So I joined this company called Procter & Gamble, and I started doing their consumer research. What that means is you do quantitative and qualitative methods and go and see what people want, what sort of needs they have in their life, and what products company can make. And I am very good at it. I realized as it was the opposite of software programming. I had an intuitive sense of looking at data and seeing patterns in those data. I also have an intuitive sense that when I talk to people, I can connect to them one-on-one, and they end up telling me what they need in life and what their challenges are. So I became pretty good at research and analytics, right? So that helped me. But then how do I grow my career? And that's when I had to discover what I really, really love. And what I realized was my heart is in public health. It is in global public health. It was a very big decision. My husband and children had to support me, but I went and did my second master's degree in Masters in Public Health. It was a very big commitment as a mother of two little children, having a full-time job, living in US. Having old parents, both my in-laws and my parents were getting old at that time, but I knew what I love is public health, and that's where I needed to get to certify it by getting the second master's degree. So I went and did masters in public health and realized now I found something that I'm good at the same time I also love doing. And continuing with that, so what the world needs most, that's where I found my ikigai. That's what I'm working right now, healthcare innovation. So now I work on these tests that can diagnose the needs of the people, most deprived people in the world. So we have tests for malaria, dengue, tuberculosis. It is for HIV, hepatitis, the world's deadliest diseases that unfortunately also impact the world's poorest. Those people live in South Asia, Africa, and I'm working on that. And I can just very proudly and very humbly say that I found my ikigai. This is the work I can do till I retire. This is what gives meaning to my life. I get paid for it. I'm good at it. I love it. And then the world also needs. So my message to you is not what I did per se, but my message to you is that if you go through a journey of lifetime and you guys are at the beginning of your careers, right? Have the faith, have the long-term vision, you will find what you are good at, what you love, and what the world needs most. And that's where you will find your ikigai, and I wish you all the best in that. My just have two more slides. How to build a thriving career in STEM. The biggest thing, believe in yourself and your mission. STEM is still a man's world, a boy's world. To be a girl in STEM, I think Neema also said, right? You still will be in a minority, most likely, hopefully not, but you can be. You have to believe in yourself and your mission. Those are just rocks as you flow like a river, and that is what is giving you your music and stream. Avoid the naysayers like flu. There'll be people who will tell you you can't do it. You're not good at it. You just don't have the brains or the capability to do it. And there are so many stereotypes that are put on girls and women. Avoid those people. Try not to listen to them. Even if those words enter your ears, go and talk to somebody who can help you forget that, right? It's flu. Naysayers are like flu. You have to avoid them, right? Build your personal board of directors. What I mean by there is have some people in your life who will lift you up all the time and will give you good advice. When I was young, I had my father, my brothers, my friends, and I shared some of the journey. Now I am very fortunate to have a husband who just encourages me and helps me every time when I'm down. My son, my daughter, my friends, right? People like you that I associate with, but I choose my people I associate and I spend my time with very, very carefully. I do not spend time with naysayers and those who bring me down. Be your own advocate, girls. Apply for awards and scholarships. Wherever there is an opportunity, what worse will happen? Maybe you will not get it, but apply. Put your name out there. Be your own advocate. If you can remember one thing out of what I'm saying in this slide, this is the one. It's so difficult for girls to be an advocate. We always second guess ourselves. We always think maybe somebody is better than us. Maybe we don't deserve it. This is the one you remember if you forget everything else I'm saying. Keep your expertise fresh and current. You get to play the game when you're good at what you are. That was my ikigai, yeah? You have to find something you're good at that you can do better than others who can do it, right? And then learn and learn some more. Never stop learning. If you ask my husband and my kids what I do most besides job, I keep listening to those audiobooks. When I'm walking around, when I'm on a treadmill, I'm listening to audiobooks because learning just doesn't stop. There is so much to learn in this world. Always have a learner attitude. Always be a student. Here is my last slide. What is my advice to you? And I mean this very seriously. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. What that means is, if you believe you can do it, you will be right. If you yourselves give up and say, I can't do it, you will be right then too. So it all depends on how you think about yourselves, right? That is so important. This is so important again. Don't just set out to do a good job. This was said by Martin Luther King. Set out to do such a good job that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it better. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. If you're writing your physics paper, if you're writing your dissertation, if you're writing a software program, if you're solving a math equation, if you're just cooking, whatever you do, give it your best. It doesn't matter what your profession or what your line is, but what you do, just do it so well that nobody else can do it. This is what Martin Luther King said. I try to do this. I'm not successful every time, but I keep this near my ears and near my eyes all the time. Bloom where you are planted. Do not complain about India. Do not complain about the village that you were born in, that there are no opportunities. Do not complain where you are. A plant, a flower can bloom where it's planted. Right? When I was in Ruchi, so many times I saw the girls who are in Delhi, they know this, they have this. The girls who are in US, they have this and that. Yes, they may have. But your job is to bloom where you are planted, where you were born, your own Matrabhumi, your own place, right? Think big, but do not put the blame on where you were born, right? And then this is the last one where I started, girls. If it weren't for the rocks in its bed, the stream would have no song. So it is all about these challenges and difficulties, the difficulty of being the girl in STEM, but then that's what gives you the song. So I had this statement written when I was a little girl, I think in fifth class, and it's still with me. So I just want to share that with you. अग्नि को अर्पित करने से सोना कुंदन बन जाता है, अपने अंदर साधना की अग्नि जागृत करो. It's the hard work, it's your passion, and that's what will take you ashore. So this is my last slide. I just want to say thank you for every girl, believe in it your heart. हम भी दरिया हैं, हमें अपना हुनर मालूम है, जिस तरफ भी चल पड़ेंगे रास्ता हो जाएगा. Again, the poet said it, and all I can say is this is so true. Thank you all. Thank you for taking your time. I hope it was useful. I'm just again thankful that you gave me this opportunity to share my story with you.
Thank you, Ruchi.
Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you, Ruchi, and thank you, Neema. Diksha, sorry, are you talking? Okay.
Yes. Yes. If I could translate the last line. So it meant it roughly translates to wherever you walk, the path is going to pave itself out. And thank you, Ruchi, for that lovely talk. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I hope my other fellows did too. I think from both Neema's and Ruchi's talk, we learned about how important it is to speak up. For Neema, it was important for her to give her voice to a cause she really believed in. And for Ruchi, it was coming here and despite not liking talking about herself, she came here and realized the importance of role models in women's life. And she came here to share us her story. So thank you for that. Now the floor is open to our fellows. And now it's your turn to speak up and ask as many as questions you can in the chat. Raise your hand, open your camera. Yeah, please go ahead.
Come on, girls. These sessions are called Speak Up Kalpana for a reason, right? So we want you to ask your questions and anything that you have in mind to the speakers. I'm so phenomenally, how do I say, I think I'm having fangirl moment listening to both of you today. So Neema, I've heard you speak at Cummins earlier also. It's just so nice to be back here and to hear all, the passion and the inspiration you both brought to this room today. So I'm really excited to see what our fellows have to ask. So girls from Telangana colleges, if any of you have a question, please come to the computer, unmute yourself and ask, or you can tell it to your teachers and they can type it in for you in the computer. So come on, go ahead.
Kanchan Pant, please go ahead. Kanchan, you can unmute and ask your question.
Kanchan, we can't hear you for some reason. I can see you have unmuted yourself, but can you try muting and unmuting again, please?
Maybe you could try and write your question in the chat if your microphone is not working.
Hey, Diksha, while we wait, can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Hey, Ruchi, I just was wondering, how did you go about the process of figuring out your ikigai?
So Neema, that's a great question, right? I think it was listening to myself. Definitely, I'm a reflective person by nature, so I do take a lot of time to think. But it's also, I guess, just that this process of not going after the next shiny thing, right? So right now I'm on a management path, and in generally in our path it's like, okay, the bigger business you manage, the more successful you are. But then I realized at that time that doesn't bring out the best in me. What brings out the best in me are the roles where I can listen, reflect, and then give out, I guess, a strategic perspective on how to solve a problem. So I guess just being very aware of what brings out the best in me, and then being reflective, and then there is a little bit of, you have to have courage of not taking the road less traveled. And I feel like I have taken the road less traveled more than a couple times in my life. And for somebody else it can be, oh, the successful path is here, or the one that gives you more success is here, but I chose the road less traveled. And I think that is, I think, needed to find your ikigai. Otherwise we can again be in a situation where we have so-called everything, as the world says, but that peace of mind may be a little lacking, or you may not find like that your true calling. So that would be my answer, Neema, but happy to chat more
Yeah,
one-on-one.
thank you. That's such a wonderful way of getting there, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Neema and Ruchi, for your answers and question. Next is Tasmeen Malik. Tasmeen, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, ma'am. It was really inspiring stories of Neema ma'am and Ruchi ma'am. I want to ask you, ma'am, sometimes when we think about that, our heart is in something else, in what we are doing. So there are a lot of confusions regarding that, and we have to take a stand to pursue another thing that is totally different from what we are doing right now. So how did you manage to do that, to decide and to pursue that, and to convince our parents? Because there are a lot of questions at the time regarding our responsibilities and shifting to differently from what we are doing and what we want to do, which would give us satisfaction. So how did you, I just want to know how you decided it.
So should I go first, Neema?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Tasmeen, the question is very valid. The question is what happens. I tell you, when I reflect over my life, if I didn't have the pressures that you are saying, maybe I wouldn't have done engineering. Maybe I could have been in healthcare or a medical field or a public health from the beginning, right? But I did that because that was the path that was, I guess, in my family, with my two brothers being engineers, on Roorkee, the town that I grew up, where there was this big engineering college, seemed a little bit more, you'd say, the easy path. So my answer to you is that those pressures are real. You have to reflect and think, is this something what they're asking me to do makes me unhappy? Is this something I really do not want to do? Is this something that does not bring out the best in me? If the answer is that strong, you have to find courage to say no. And doing something that you have to do on yourself is risky, right? So then you need to have that faith in yourself, and at least you have to have some people who are constantly feeding you that, yeah, the path, the different path that's almost like different from what your parents want you to do, or they say is your responsibility, still the right path to take. It is risky. And sometimes people think it's rebellious. And I'm telling you, I'm not a rebellious person. I know for myself. So sometimes I've gone with what people are saying. Like if I was rebellious, I would have taken the train to Kanpur. But I didn't. I saw the train going like right in front of my eyes. I was like, right, I knew the time came and went. So I'm not a rebellious person. But in my own quiet way, I can also find my path and take a detour a little bit later. So this is my response to you. So either if you feel very strongly, you can have the courage to be rebellious. But if it's like me, that you find it difficult to be rebellious, there are still ways, quiet ways, in which you can again later take a detour and find the path that you want to do. Those are the only two options as I see. I don't know, Neema, Darshana, or anybody else has any other perspective.
Yeah, I think I'm a little different from Ruchi. I am rebellious. I have always been rebellious. I've always been the voice that stood out. And but what she said holds complete truth. So what that means is, if you choose to be that rebellious person, if you choose to be that loud voice in the room, then you have to bear with the consequences of your actions and have courage to bear the consequences of actions, because it may not work out the way you imagined it, right? We always think everything's going to be nice and beautiful and fuzzy in our head, but it's not, right? You have to then be able to be courageous enough to deal with the consequences of those actions, and you have to be able to pull yourself out of a ditch when you fall into one. And also the most important piece for me is to take your contribution to yourself, your life, to society seriously. And what that means is, don't just switch paths because people might not value what you add to society. And what I mean by that is, I meet so many women who say, hey, I'm doing this job and it's not something that's important to my family, or it's just a hobby thing. My money is like coming on top as an additional mera pocket money, or whatever you want to call it, right? If you don't take yourself seriously and you don't take your own job seriously, and that it is an actual contribution to something important, then you will lose your way. And so so what I mean by that is, if the job that you have is a paycheck, that's okay, right? Accept that it's a paycheck, and then move on with whatever it is that you want to do passionately till it makes sense and can become serious part of your life. There was a young woman I was with in a university, and she said, hey, I want to do photography. This is what I want, and my parents are really pushing me to do engineering. And I said, then why is engineering important to you? So she said, okay, it's not. So I said, okay, so tomorrow, let's say you quit engineering completely and you go take photography seriously, and your parents are really upset with you, so they're going to strand you on the street. Okay, now what? Right. So you have to have an answer to that question. If you are taking photography seriously and you are willing to live on the street, go for it, right? But you have to accept that your what you do matters. It matters to your own life, and that seriousness has to be there. So if what you want to do is an absolute great career option and you're willing to take that chance, go for it. If it makes sense for us to slow down and look at how it plays out and later take a detour, like Ruchi said, then do that. But make whatever decision you make seriously, like it impacts something serious.
Thank you, Neema and Ruchi, for their answer. And Tasmeen for that question. So this is being live broadcasted to our fellows in Telangana, and we have a question from there. So it's for Neema. So are engine businesses and mechanical engineering difficult fields? How did you land a job in such a male-dominated field? So is your field difficult, and how did you land your job? And if you could touch on that.
I feel like it's the perception. Every job is difficult. Every job has to be passionate. Every job matters. And so if what you're meant to do is build engines, then you should be building engines. What you are good at doing, if you wake up every morning and that's what you're really good at doing, then go build engines. Right? And if that is dancing, then you do dancing. If it's singing, it's singing. If it is being a medical professional, it's being a medical professional, right? But what it is, you have to do it with all your heart and every cell in your body. And if you can't do it that way, then it is going to seem hard no matter what. And so, yes, it is hard being in a male-dominated profession. But I don't think that's a reason to quit, right? And there are a lot of fields that are male-dominated professions. And so what all are you going to quit? I think you have to find your passion point irrelevant to what the situation is. And then you figure out what makes sense and you fight through whatever you need to fight through. But you pick and choose your battles because you're not going to win everything. Yeah, I don't think it's hard to do engines any harder than, for me, what Ruchi does seems hard. Public health in the last 3 years seems hard. So, but engines is my passion and it's what I understand and that makes sense to me. So I think you just have what it is that you're passionate about and keep doing it. It doesn't seem that hard there.
Absolutely. Neema, if you don't mind, I have one question to each of you regarding the way the fields are evolving, right? So with us going back to the good old motor, in electric vehicles and all, what does the future of engine businesses as a whole look like? And what could be the potential emerging careers in there? And to Ruchi, my question is, for a young aspiring student who wants to pursue public health, what are the avenues and how can they start thinking about the career in this? Because we know some of our girls, like you're talking about bold decisions. So we have a mentee in Kalpana who's done her dentistry and now she's fighting her family too that I want to go and do public health. So so that's why on behalf of those two people, I'm asking this question so whoever wants to go first, please go ahead.
Okay, I can go first on the energy question. I think the world will always need energy. We will always need to move and we will always need to use energy for different things. And so if you're in engineering that's hardcore thermodynamics, you have nothing to worry about. There is always going to be heat transfer in this world. What we apply it to will change because that's how humans evolve. We change it from burning paper or leaves to coal to gasoline, and now we will go to whatever else is the next thing we can burn or not burn and be more green in it. But I think what you need to focus at this stage is that the basics are really important. The fundamentals of science, the fundamentals of math, the fundamentals of engineering are really important. And the focus should be on that. Get your fundamentals straight. Work for a few years, in my opinion, in something very fundamental. And then figure out what is that field evolving into? What do you think is the thing that you need to learn? And you can pick up and the learning and development area and the areas of the world have completely changed. I mean, degrees are becoming non-important now, where you can do anything over a 6-month Coursera course, right? And so the way you learn is changing. Everything is so rapidly changing in this world right now. And so it's most important, I think, to get your fundamentals straight and then to keep an open mind and have agility in how you think about things. And then the rest will follow. So specifically, okay, if I say, okay, go into solar energy or go into electric, honestly, nobody knows. If you look at the industry right now, everything is out there, right? It's not, nobody knows. The governments don't know. The The regulatory bodies don't know. They're just throwing darts at a board right now because we don't know what energy is going to evolve into. All of the options are out there. And the most important thing is to keep the fundamentals clear because, like I said, heat transfer is heat transfer, right? And then keep an open mind.
Thank you, Neema. So, Ruchi, would you like to take?
Yeah, so about public health, I guess what I would like to say here is that the beauty of public health is that it is asking you, or it is about being able to think big problems in a systematic way and come up with solutions, right? So the recent public health challenge that we faced was COVID-19, as Neema said, right? So the entire point of, like, if you're looking at it from public health point of view, you need to have the skills of data analysis, logical thinking, strategic thinking. You do need to understand science, though. So I totally agree with what Neema said. You need to have the fundamentals of science and scientific thinking, scientific inquiry, and then being able to take a problem, break it into pieces, write hypotheses or discuss hypotheses, and then be able to kind of come up with database decisions, right? So I'll just give an example. The business that I work in, we make rapid antigen tests that you all may have seen for COVID, right? You could do the test and get an answer within 15 minutes. Now, is that a valuable tool compared to the lab test, which probably will be more accurate, but you need to send a sample from your nose or throat? It'll go to a lab and you'll get an answer in one day. So, right, that's the trade-off. Those are the kind of questions a public health professional is grappling with, that if you have public health money, is it better spent in a rapid antigen test, which is less accurate, but will give you answer in 15 minutes, versus a more accurate lab test, but will give you answer in one day, right? What do you need to do, to Darshana's question, to become that public health professional? I think if you have fundamentals of science, it can be anything. You need you need mathematics, you need a little bit of biology, you need the basic scientific inquiry principles, but I think you can excel in public health. So when I joined my master's in public health, I had not done anything related to core biology after my class 10th, right? Because I took engineering, so I took more of physics and chemistry and mathematics, and then later a little bit more of finance and analytical kind of bent of mind. But because I had the fundamentals of science, right, fundamentals of STEM, when I read those things, I could understand the epidemiology of, say, tuberculosis. All it required me to is like go back into, again, a deep reflection and thinking. So the good part of public health is you can be a dentist, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, or you can be an MD doctor, MBBS MD doctor. If you have that basics of scientific inquiry and basics, right, I think you can excel as a public health professional. So I hope that's helpful. But my email is there for the person who's asking a question. I'm happy to have a one-on-one chat.
Thank you, Ruchi. So Sharanya, you can go next.
Thank you. My question is a follow-up on the public health question, actually. So how can a person stand out in this field? So as you mentioned, there are a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds. So there are engineers, there are doctors. So what makes one person stand out from their peers? Because it matters a lot. So what can they do? Can they take online courses? Is it on-field training? So what would you suggest to help them in this?
I think it's both. You do need some sort of fundamental training, but that can be a formal degree or it can be the courses, right? So I did take like a summer course in biostatistics and epidemiology for 8 weeks that helped me go deep into, right, understanding the world of epidemiology. And then it also gives me the language that I can communicate with other professionals, right? So you do need, so I think some sort of a training definitely is needed. But the on the field and on the ground experience is always priceless. Like even now, when I get a chance, I will go and visit the TB clinics in India as part of my job, right? Because understanding the problems on the ground, I think that's what gives the edge in being an academic. But you do need academic expertise, but your ability to relate to what is happening on the ground. Who is the end user? At the end of it, public health, you're talking about families and communities who are getting impacted. So the more connected you are to them, with the fundamentals of your trade and the fundamentals of like knowing the right language so you can talk to the experts, that's what makes people differentiate. I feel it's those, I hope I'm able to explain to you that, right? That ability to connect to the end person who's being impacted, the communities, understanding their real life problems, at the same time having both the knowledge and the communication skills to influence those who are making big policy decisions and big investment decisions. That is that fundamental understanding that you need both, and spending time in both and having an expertise in both, I feel that makes a person an excellent public health professional and helps them, as you were saying, outshine the other people who may be just doing one or the other.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruchi and yeah. So TSW RDC Armur Telangana, they want to ask you a question. So this is being live broadcasted in Telangana for our fellows in Armur and Kemeredi. So if you could unmute and maybe show your video, so and ask your question. Whoever is managing the Armur Telangana, please ask your question. If you could unmute yourself and switch on the video. I don't know what's happening.
Just one sec, Diksha. I've messaged them on WhatsApp as well. So, Telangana teachers, you just messaged that you want to ask a question. Can you please ask your question? I think I see someone switching on their camera.
Oh, yeah. It's there. Yeah, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sujit, can you enable them to unmute, please? I think they're not able to unmute.
In the meantime, I think Kanchan asked a question in the chat and Neema replied there. So people who do not have access to the chat, I will read it for you. So she asked like society's perception on the work she might be doing or the career she might be having later. And Neema replied like, we really can't control the perception of all the people. We can't really control what society thinks. Really, all we can do is control our actions and our work. So thank you, Neema, for that. Yeah, just a second. I think there's some issue with the mic.
No problem. For the Telangana fellows, I'll I'll collect their questions and I'll send it to both Ruchi and Neema. And also, we are going to restart the cohort for Telangana girls again on 25th. So we would love to have you back again. Talk at a slower pace and to engage really with these aspiring young girls from really remote villages of Telangana who are brimming with potential and are ready to take the world by storm. So that's a very special project that we all are very proud of, and I think. Because of the commitment of their teachers, they are sitting beyond hours just to be there to ensure that the girls are able to attend these sessions. So I will make sure that their questions reach you. And on behalf of entire Vigyan Shala family and my fellows, I would just like to extend my heartfelt thanks to both Neema and Ruchi today for celebrating this International Day of Women and Girls in STEM with us and sharing your inspiring journeys. We couldn't have, asked for a better way to celebrate this day. And I'm sure, just like I'm feeling inspired, my fellows today here are also feeling inspired. And we don't want to overshoot the time. So thank you once again for being here. And thanks to our girls for being here and asking questions. And Ruchi, I will connect Sharanya to you, because I think under your mentorship, she's truly going to thrive. So I'm really proud of her for the choices she's making and for the fights she's putting up along that way. So thank you, Neema. Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you for conducting this session so fabulously. I mean, you make us proud. So thanks again. For you both continue to give your support and love to this amazing program. So thanks.
Thanks a lot. So that concludes our session, and we'll see you in next session. Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you, Neema, once again for sharing your stories, and I'll see you. Bye, everyone.
Diksha, one sec. Sorry, if I can take 1 minute. I think the Telangana question arrived. Neema, do you have a moment if you can answer that question quickly?
Yeah, I can. I just saw that in the chat window. So if you get significant opportunities at a time, how do you select a good one and which is going to be suitable for us? I think it depends on your priorities. And what I mean by that, it's easy for me to sit here and say, hey, absolutely look at the job that's going to give you the long-term future. That is absolutely the always go-to answer. But also, if you are the person who is going to be the future of your family and that responsibility is on you, understand how you can take the opportunity that is giving you, if there's a significant monetary difference, take that first and help whatever you can, so that you get the time and how do I say, mental space to then do what you really want to do. So it is basically on your priority. So if you have responsibilities, deal with those responsibilities first. But if that's not the case and you're talking about two good opportunities and there were two companies, I would go with the company that has better value systems that align with you. Because you can make a lot of changes in life, but you can't change who you are, fundamentally who you are, right? So for me, one of my value systems, very strong value system, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so for me to go into a company where that is not like a very high priority for them is not something that I will survive. So so that's something for me personally, that's how I make decisions. Your value systems, they're absolutely important to who you are. And the whole point of a journey like this is you want to evolve as a human being. You want to get really good at who you are and become the best version of who you can become. But what starts is who you are at the very base core of your own value system. That you cannot change. And that you shouldn't change, and you should not compromise that. It makes you unique, and it makes you significantly important to everybody and the industry as a whole. So you should stay unique. So whatever it is that makes you unique, stay true to that. I hope I answered that.
Thank you, Neema, for that lovely answer. And we look forward to having you speak to them, again in April if possible. So thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just one piece.
Sorry for overshooting the time.
Yeah, fine. Just one piece of advice. If you are looking for an affinity group, because you're women in STEM, right? If you're looking for an affinity group, SWE is a really good space for you to be in, because you will meet other women in different career stages. So you will meet women who are in early career stages, like students. Like Cummins is a sponsor for the Society of Women Engineers affiliate at Cummins College of Engineering. Same way, John Deere is a sponsor for that at the College of Engineering, Pune. So that is one, you will meet other students who are on the same path. You will meet women who are mid-career, who've gone through this and are trying to balance family and work. And then you'll also meet really senior women in the industry, and you'll find role models amongst them. So if this is something that you want to do, figure a way out to be part of it. It's a really good opportunity.
So I had a
Sure, we'll
question.
check that out. Thank you.
SME
Go ahead.
is for
Thank you, Neema.
only engineers or anyone in the STEM?
SWE is for anybody with a STEM background.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll share this with our fellows. Thank you, Neema. Have a good evening and a lovely weekend ahead. And I look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you again sometime soon at Comments. So thank you very much.
Will do.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you so much for
being here
having me.
today. Thank you, Neema.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Happy International Day of Women and Girls in STEM. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you, Diksha, for conducting it so beautifully. And bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, everyone.